Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Irvine International Academy Board meeting today is Tuesday, August 6th, starting at 6 p.m. Meeting locations, Irvine International Academy, 4782 Karen Ann Lane, Irvine, California, 92604. We have anyone calling in telephonically?
I do not believe so.
Okay,
And there's no one on the Zoom yet. So I'm not sure if we will have our teleconference locations, but we may after closed session.
okay, perfect. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for being here and those that may be joining online or listen to the meeting at a later date. First, I'd like to take roll call. Molly Chang.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Felipe Delgado.
Present.
I am present. Doug Hewson. Absent. David Sun. Present. Present. And Miller Zhuang. Absent. Okay, next item is the approval of the agenda for the regular meeting of the Irvine International Academy Board of Directors on today, August 6, 2024. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Irvine International Academy Board of Directors. Is there a motion?
I will motion to approve.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
I will second.
I almost wrote an M.
Felipe got that one. We're gonna do a roll call. Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug is absent. David?
Yeah.
And Miller is absent. Okay, that is approved. Moving on to the next item, community input on any closed session agenda items. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay, moving on to the next is closed session where we have two particular agenda items listed. One is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and the other is public employee performance evaluation, executive director. Anticipate should be back within 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And we will rejoin at that time here. We're gonna go into your office, is that okay?
Gonna put it on hold, huh?
Okay, reconvening about 7:02, 7:03, is that right? I said. Accurate. Thank you for those that are joining us again. We had two items in closed session. No action on the first item. A conference with legal counsel. The second item, public employee and performance evaluation. We were just discussing the evaluation rubric that we're going to be using for our executive director. No definitive action on that yet. It's still a work in process. Hopefully that'll be concluded at the next board meeting. Next item. Public report of action taken in closed session, just did that. So the flag salute. Would anyone like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would be proud.
Okay, thank you, Felipe. Everyone please.
You guys over here. It's over here for those of you who don't know. It's
Behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, community input on agendized items. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay, moving to the next item. Item 7, items for consent. So we have A through F, A being approved minutes from the special meeting of the IAA Board of Directors on July 20th. B, approved minutes from the regular meeting of the IIA Board of Directors on June 25th. C, ratify the contract with Jiaohe to provide Mandarin education and consulting services. D, ratify the contract with Effectual Educational Consultants to provide special education services. E, ratify the contract with Strategic Kids to provide an after-school program. And F, approve the personnel report. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve consent items A through F. Dr. Kernan, do you have any comments regarding these items that we'd like to bring up that aren't?
We may be making an amendment to the contract with U Consulting. After speaking with our Mandarin teachers and Tiffany, who is our new assistant principal, they were looking at actually decreasing the amount of services for this year. So we'll be working, because she's already done some work, we will need to approve the contract, but then we'll be probably utilizing the clause to amend the contract and reduce the services. That will also come with some reduced costs to us that we can recapture some of the funds that were being allocated to this as well. But you'll be approving it now because she's already started working based on this contract. If you choose to approve it, and then we would amend that later.
Do we have some idea of the gap between,
It will likely be between $35,000 and $40,000 that we'll be saving.
okay, but the impact, what's the impact to the curriculum, the Mandarin curriculum as a result of this change?
It shouldn't really have much of an impact. Our teachers and Tiffany, what she was doing was really creating some curriculum maps. And our teachers and Tiffany over the last couple of days have been already working on those curriculum maps. And so they'll already have those completed and more aligned to what we're actually doing in our classrooms, and that cohesion between what's happening in the English classes and the Mandarin classes, since it'll be our teachers and our staff that are actually creating those maps. So we don't see any issues with what we're providing to the students or what resources that we'll be able to have for our teachers, especially now that we have our assistant principal who is really overseeing that Mandarin program, and she'll be taking that role that U Consulting had last year.
Something, is that it?
Ooh.
So the Strategic Kids contract, who reviewed that? Was that you or?
It was done before me, but then we actually amended that one a bit as well. It was for a higher price, and we amended that down from 250 to 180. Yeah, that was the contract that we've used for the last couple of years.
The reason I mentioned that, I seem to recall last year that Strategic Kids was put on notice that they had to improve, their services here. And was there any follow-up to that? I don't recall anything. Is their contract just being rolled over without any?
So I did meet with Adam Brody, who runs Strategic Kids now twice, to go over that a little bit, the way that we are going to have some more accountability towards the program, making sure that the correct students are being enrolled per our ELOP funds, that we are providing those services to the students who we believe need those services, as well as some accountability around attendance monitoring, us knowing exactly how many students are in the program at any given time. And then I've received some feedback about the program.
From who? From the parents?
From secondhand, from staff talking about things that were brought up from parents. So I think this year is going to be some monitoring, or a lot closer monitoring of the program, making sure that they are providing the services that they have outlined in the contract, and making sure that they are providing all of the pieces that they say that they're coming in. I don't really have a frame of reference from last year. But,
When you say monitoring, who is monitoring?
so that would be Grant and I, monitoring.
The reason I say that is because we had some experience with parents
Mhm.
responding about strategic kids, and that's specifically why I brought it up. In the past, there hasn't always been a direct avenue. If somebody who's kept monitoring, as you put it, and be able to respond accordingly. And it's one of the reasons why they were put on notice
Mhm.
last year. So we had a lot of difficulty with them. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of difficulty, but difficulty. And specifically with the quality of engagement with the kids on programs that they provide. Seems like they start well, and then it deteriorates, and eventually they're just a big babysitting service. And so part of, and I believe in the survey that you talked about, they did not score highly in the survey. So if you go back and you look at that. So I'm a little surprised to see that the contract is being renewed here. And without a deeper analysis, or maybe another service being checked out.
So one thing that we, already have on our radar for this year, it was a little late to really change vendors, is that we are going to look at alternative, vendors for the following school year. So there are some other programs that are out there, in other surrounding districts, other surrounding schools. This program it seems is more just in a few smaller charter schools, this full after-school program. So we want to really look at making sure that we're getting the best program for the best value for our families and for us. So we will be probably in the spring or right after winter break, putting out an RFP to other after-school providers to submit proposals for providing the services for next year. And Strategic Kids is welcome to also be part of that process, but we do want to look at other vendors.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot here. So specifically, if there's a problem with strategic kids, the parents had it, who do they go to?
So they should go to Grant or I.
Okay, then I'm gonna hold you to that, and I'll be, if I'm on the board next year, I'll be reminding you come spring. Is that what you said?
We'll probably be looking, I mean, it's a longer process for that, so we'll probably be looking at starting that process right after winter break.
Winter break. Winter
So
break.
come
I'm writing that down.
remind me
Winter break.
if I haven't already
Winter-
reported on it right after winter break, but yes, we've already been, Grant and I have already been discussing that over the last couple of
Not that I mean to tell you what to do, but that's what I do best. So in the survey, I would like to see specific questions related to strategic kids and qualities from the parents. And I know not all the school uses them, right? Not the entire school, but a lot of people.
But we can make it a kind of a
Subcategory.
supplemental category that
So we can
parents
get
can
some
use
kind
them.
of feedback from them. And I'm not sure when the survey is, but
We'll probably do it closer to winter break. Usually we would put it out in November so that we could use that data when we're doing our LCAP planning in the spring.
yeah, so. So, any other questions? I'm good. No, I'm gonna make a motion that we
Oh,
accept.
I have some
Uh,
more,
you have one?
I have
Go
some,
ahead.
I have some more questions. How did you get the reduction in price?
We are trying to look at exactly, well, we sort of recalculated how much money we were going to get from ELOP. It is based off of our prior year enrollment versus our current year enrollment. And so using those calculations as well as the rate that the state is supplying this year for ELOP, it looks like it's going to be more like 180,000 versus 250,000. And instead of trying to make up that amount with our additional funds, we said that we were only going to be able to really cover the 180. If we do get additional ELOP funds, then we can, instead of making that sort of an upfront thing. We talked about then we would use a per student rate for us to add more kids to the program, so that we're really only adding that cost when we know there's a student attached to it. Because right now it seems, in the past that we've done sort of a blanket thing, we've told them how much ELOP money we are gonna get, and then they tell us how many services we're gonna get. I'd rather do it the other way around, where it's, we're telling them how many kids we need to put in the program, they're giving us a per student rate, and then we're using that, as well as attendance of whether those students are actually, going to the program to determine, the cost that we're going to give them for those additional students.
Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions on any of the other items? I have another one before it makes a motion. Okay, so I saw the contract for the effectual educational consultants. I saw it said nonpartisan.
Non-public agencies.
Yeah,
So-
and it said non-public agency, but it seemed like it was, aren't we a public school?
So we're
yeah.
a public school,
Yeah.
and in order to contract with a non-public school agency, we have to, and that master contract is actually utilized by all schools in California to contract with outside non-public agencies. And so because some of our special ed services are coming from companies that are not public schools and we're not hiring staff, we need to utilize that statewide contract, as well as we did change all of our special ed consultants, because all consultants that we use as a public school and are paid for by public funds need to be for special ed services need to be approved by the California Department of Ed. There's a big list that you can look at. And so our previous vendors were not on that list, so we have made sure that and we've actually been able to just use now one vendor instead of multiple vendors for special ed. And so we're going to be using effectual educational consultants. They're a state-approved provider and a pretty big provider in Orange County that works with a lot of the school districts and other schools to provide those services. And so so Joe's been working with them, and it looks like they'll be able to provide us the services. And they have to follow certain rate guidelines as well, because they're dealing with public funds and certain accountability. So they have to make sure that all of their employees are mandated reporters and all of those certain, normal California things that a public school would have to follow, even though they're a private entity. So, so now with this contract, we're assuring that and any of those outside providers are following all of our California guidelines.
Thank you.
So this is a new contract, right?
This is a new contract.
The new contract, the other contracts is basically either renew.
The other contracts are new or renew, but since this is a state contract that is a mandated contract by the state, that's why it's under consent items and not something that was created by a specific vendor.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve items A through F.
All right, thank you, Felipe. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Molly got that one. All right, roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Is absent. David
Yes.
and Miller? Absent. Okay,
All right.
passes. Thank you. Moving on, items for presentation, school update from Mr. Schmitter.
Sure, in the future, it'll be a little bit longer when school's in session.
Thank you.
Well, first off, I wanted to give you guys an enrollment update, kind of where we stand. As you know, with our cap being lifted, we've been working through our wait list. Right now, we're projected to be at least at 550 enrollment come the start of the year. Which I know came as a surprise to everyone.
A pleasant surprise.
Yes, we've, to accomplish this, we have added a kindergarten classroom and a second grade class. We TK is gonna be early bird and late bird program, just like it had been last year. And then we'll have a teaching staff of 25. And that, we did that, so we went from 510 to 550 without having to hire any additional teachers. So everything above that 510 will be additional funds coming into the school. So in terms of enrollment, that's kind of where we're at.
I saw, one question.
Yes,
I sort of, we have a cap, right? In terms of capacity.
We do not.
We don't have- that's a-
We clarified with OCDE.
Okay.
I couldn't find it anywhere in our facilities use agreement or our charter, and so we clarified with OCDE and they have agreed that there was not a cap.
Oh. That's good news.
Yeah.
So we can tag them in.
our current limitation right now is our caps in our classroom.
Yeah, we have classroom caps,
Yeah.
but we had a lot of classes that were not full because of the 510 cap. We had certain classes that were, 15 students or 12 students. So now we could actually backfill those classes and as well as adding the two additional, an additional kinder and additional second grade class.
With the 550 projected, do we have a wait list?
We still have a wait list
And
because-
How big is that?
I can't give you that number right off the top of my head, but I know if I
Yes.
about 30 to 40,
Okay.
I want to
It's
say.
under 100.
Yeah, it's under 100 now because we were able to go through a lot of that wait list with the cap being open.
But we do still have some people who are new families who weren't on the wait list, who have recently, since school's about to start,
Yes.
have applied. So we're actually building on that wait list even
We're
currently.
getting inquiries daily on that.
Yeah.
And so in fact, I know it's a family this afternoon.
Any
They don't
worries,
measure us by the wait list.
any worries about the impact to the quality of the education as a result of?
Well, I mean, anytime you have
Huge
this type,
increase in population.
well, anytime you have this type of growth, you have to do it carefully. And so that's one thing that we've been really working on, which I'll get to in a little bit, is putting in organization and just streamlining processes within the school. So, right, kind of making things very clear for the teachers, clear protocols, clear expectations. And so, right, instead of having kind of be so, I want to say relaxed in certain areas, we're going to be a lot more organized. And
I like
so
it.
when it comes to the classroom, the teachers are there to teach. And so with that, I've worked with a lot of the other teachers taking off. A lot of teachers were doing a lot of extra responsibilities within the school. A lot of those things have kind of been removed from them. So now they can focus on being a teacher first and foremost.
How are we gonna handle the TAs?
So we still have TAs. I have a list and we continue to hire. So there's still a couple vacancies, but right now we still have TAs in the classroom.
And we've actually, in light of making sure that our TAs are really instructional, we've actually changed their title to be instructional aid. It makes us more in line with surrounding districts, especially in hiring. It sounds more like an instructional position versus a, kind of making copies position. And that's, we're going to give them some training at the beginning of the year, quite a bit of training at the beginning of the year, to make them more instructional support in the classrooms, working with small groups of students, providing really, and almost an extra instructional person in the classroom that's working with the teachers. So even though we're increasing our students and some of our classes will be a little bit bigger than maybe they would have been, we're trying to balance that out with really providing more instructional support from those instructional assistants instead of having them be TAs.
So what's our class size now?
It depends, but we have our caps at ranges. I mean, we have. TK, it's a fixed amount. It's 24-20 based on the students in the class. Kindergarten to 28, and as it goes up, our largest class is 34.
Because I know that will be something that parents really concerned.
Yeah,
So it's about this, the class sizes seem to be similar caps to what they were last year.
so we haven't added anything to the caps of the classrooms. None of that has changed. We've just filled in the classrooms more and added the kindergarten and second grade.
And I was reading somewhere under the class sizes, talking about 14 students for one teacher?
So a lot of times what they'll do is a 14:1 adult ratio, and usually it refers to the teacher and the instructional aide in the classroom. So if you have a teacher and instructional aide, you actually have two adults in the classroom. So
And
that's
then I
why,
think for our SARCs, because those are always a year behind, when we had such a decrease in student enrollment. And it's classified, even though it says teacher to student ratio, the actual ratio is classified employee to student. So even Joe and Grant would get counted into that ratio. And that ratio is when we, in year 2, lost all of our students. So, so that ratio is really looking very low online right now, but that's because that's a 20-23 ratio, because that's the latest published SARC ratio. So, so when the new SARCs come out for last year, then that will be kind of a more accurate representation of what the actual class size ratios were last year, because that one year was sort of an anomaly, and that's what our data is showing off of, that kind of anomaly year of 22-23.
Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed most of the class size right now is 30 to 33, right?
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
okay, earlier you mentioned that there will be a cap per classroom. What is the cap, 35?
It depends on the grade level.
Grade level.
So in kindergarten, we would usually keep that around 28 students. As we get to the upper grades, normally we wouldn't go over 33 or 34. I think right now we have it set at 34 being our biggest grade.
So if you have 34 and you have the 2 adults in there, how are you managing the additional kids? In 28 and 34, am I missing? So
In upper grades, you normally will have a larger
Yeah,
class
that's
size,
typical.
because, you know, the kids are a little bit older,
Yeah.
they're easier to manage than kindergarten TK. So normally, as the grade levels increase, you would have a larger class size ratio.
Okay.
So it's not that 1/3 grade is at 28 and 1/3 grade is at 34. It's that kindergarten is at 28 and maybe 5th grade is at 33.
you can have more students, you're saying in older grades.
The older
and
grades,
More
you usually
students
have more
per
students
teacher.
per teacher.
yeah, it's really the cap is kind of what we said, but really the one that's really fixed, that's a hard one, is TK especially.
TK has a cap set by the state that we can't, that there has to be, it depends on the age level of the kids that we have in the classroom, but our classes would not be able to be more than 20 or 24, depending on the age of the students in the class.
So when we reach 550 with the 25 staff, so the ratio is 1:22. How does that compare to the other numbers in urban district? School district?
It's pretty similar. Usually the class sizes are anywhere between 22 and 28, is sort of an average. I know that's a big span, but different schools calculate it different ways. Different schools have different amounts of certificated employees, TOSAs, things like that. But normally it would be around 22 to 28.
But normally they don't have a instructional.
And normally they don't have an instructional aide. Most other schools would not have an instructional aide in each classroom. They would have maybe sporadic ones that were in there to provide services for special education students or things like that. So really, if you're looking at an adult to student ratio, even though that won't be reflected because it's certificated employees, if we're looking at our ratio, say on average, we're 30-1, we're really 15-1 because of that additional support in the classroom.
And I would say, I mean, I recognize that because the school near our house is exactly, you know, the rooms are packed, 32 students, and there's only one teacher, and then EA only comes once, a couple hours per week.
Per week, yes.
Yeah, and that's it, right? So my suggestion is when you talk to the parents and you announce it to the parents, make sure you remind them about that, that there will be, because they don't get that.
Yeah.
In their school, and that's a big selling point. for-
Yep, absolutely.
So the plan is 1 instructional aide per class?
For the most part, for some of the older kids, I mean, like middle school specifically, there's gonna be a shared aid, because those classes are actually fluctuate. We have classes of 13, we have classes of 28, classes of 30. There'll be a shared aid right now, just
Because
because
the kids rotate around. and
they
move
move around
around.
the classroom.
Most are more
And
mature.
And they're, yeah,
so the need is a
sort of.
little bit less.
Sort
Middle school, but no, it's, but yeah, so the lower ones is all there's an aid in every classroom.
Older one.
4 to 6 hours of the day.
Maybe I should say they're.
they're older, maybe not mature.
As they get older, it's a little bit more shared, but right now, because with instructional aides, there's the way that the system nature of the position, there's a lot of turnover, so you constantly kind of filling in roles and positions.
Do we have a rough idea on the max capacity if we end up getting all of the classrooms here?
If we ended up getting the additional 2 classrooms, then we should be able to expand by an additional 2 classes. So that would be an additional, say, 60 kids.
I think our financial, forecasting or budget, so we'll have to factor into this, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, and,
expanded.
And Delano and I will
Yeah.
be redoing the budget,
Yeah.
over probably the next month to share again for board approval with a lot of the new information, the new enrollment projections, some kind of changes in expenditures and things like that. So we'll be asking the board, coming up here in the future to approve a revised budget that'll more accurately reflect exactly where we are.
That's great. I believe I talked to the previous principal to help me get out here. And he told me, if I recall, he said that at max, when he was here, he had 612 or 615 students in this facility.
It looks like I was actually looking through the old data on DataQuest, and it looks like they actually got probably up even almost to 700 here at one point.
That's what I-
But we would not be
Yeah,
likely getting up near up to that level.
I'm not sure where you could put 700.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where you could put 600 kids, right? 700, boy, that's.
Well, for orientation next week, right?
This
The end of this week. I know this can be probably top of a lot of parents' minds that are coming
Yeah.
back here, or even those that are new, How are you gonna be able to, everything from the parking situation to the managed class management?
Well, I mean, that's going, anytime you have a school that grows like that's going to be normal, and you go to any elementary school, specifically parking, there's no parking, that's just the nature of it. So we have systems in place, we have staffing in place for drop off and pickup to make it as smooth as possible, so we're kind of putting in new protocols for that. And that's going to be shared with families on Friday as well. Yeah. That's what we have Mario on staff now. That's one of his responsibilities, is overseeing that. Obviously, I'm working with him, but making sure that we're always adequately staffed to manage the traffic. Yep, because that has to be safe. Yep. All right, moving on to areas of focus for the school year. The big feedback first, even before I started to the first day, was the Mandarin program. Just from parents and even staff and just the community is a focus on the Mandarin program. So we've been working really hard on that, and that's going to be what you'll see is a total buy-in from the school. I know in the past we've kind of had our English instruction and we've had Mandarin instruction kind of run separately. You're going to see a lot more co-teaching, like a dual immersion program should be. Our staff, we have scheduled time for our staff to work together, our English and Mandarin teachers, so they can plan together. So really what's happening on the English side is also balance what's happening on the Mandarin side. With our new AP, Tiffany, on staff, she's been working as well. She's been great. Teachers are excited about it. The Mandarin teachers are excited, which reflects some of the earlier changes you guys have talked about. But really what we're doing is as what was shared by the teachers, there's a vision now, and the program is being built out. So that's going to be a big focus for this school year. Secondly, school climate. So really, again, that's also one of our major things in our LCAP, but still as a school climate, you'll hear a lot as our PBIS program. We're amping it up a little bit. You'll see matrices along the campus that set student behaviors. We're going to be putting in a board in here that recognizes students who get a certain number of their tickets, and it's going to be building throughout the year. So the goal is you'll see every student's name on there to kind of recognize that. And then we're also going to be working through with Orange County Department of Education to really build out our program completely from the ground up, so that what we're doing it the right way. And also with the hopeful future expansion of the school, it's a program that can then be modeled out from there. And then the second part of the school climate is this partnership with parents. So I've already had quite a few meetings with PTO, and just really, and then just for myself, being a visible presence on campus that's available. Drop off, I'm out there. Pick up, I'm out there. If a parent needs to talk something, they have a concern, being available. So that's going to be a big focus for the year. And then thirdly is just the organization and communication. So we've worked, we've had our instructional leadership team here these last couple of days. So kind of working with them, that removing certain pieces so teachers can focus on teaching and the ILT team can support the teachers, and letting administration make the decisions. And just kind of putting things in place in the way it should be, so things are very clear. And then improving our communication from admin down to the teachers and the classified staff, and also out to our parents and our community. So you'll see regular communication, regular updates, getting our parents on Parent Square and signed up for it. It's going to be an initiative. So that's going to be a focus for our year. Yes.
Are you still gonna focus on the 5 pillars?
Yeah, so the 5 pillars is a part of PBIS.
Yeah.
And so it's integrated into it. So that's what they're going to be recognized for their character traits. Yes.
And then, with at least the past year, maybe the past 2 years, there was each month a different character trait. There was a focus, and then there was an assembly and an award given.
So we're gonna have the assemblies, but instead of doing a single character trait, it'll be a general award, and then the teacher's going to recognize the student for a character trait. Instead of assigning it, it'll be more open, but then we're also adding a STEAM award and also a Mandarin award, because given the mission of our school, we want to recognize all areas of that school. But yes, that is definitely going to be a part of it. And we're also going to be kind of enhancing it a little bit, if that's the right word, to make it more exciting for the kids.
You still gonna do the tickets?
Yeah, so they're still going to be doing tickets. Eventually, we'll update it in the future, but we'll be doing the family card tickets, yes. So there will be some of the similarities, but now it's going to be very visible, and you'll see it in the hallways, you'll see it in every classroom, just to get that reinforcement. Yep.
I have a question about the Mandarin program.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I recall the parents always pushing back on, or I should say, not all of them, but some of them, is there a metric to be able to measure, that their improvement, whether it's kindergarten, so we're still gonna have some kind of metric.
Glad you asked that.
Yeah.
Yes, we have level learning. So we have level learning, which before we were only doing the reading, but we've added the writing and then the literacy component to it. So level learning now will have more data benchmarking for our students. And then we're also going to be adding the Apple assessments, which is a language assessment. So think of it as kind of the SBAC, but for Mandarin, in the sense where
So iReady for Mandarin and then the SBAC for Mandarin,
Yes.
and we have iReady and the SBAC in English, and then we have level learning and the Apple in Mandarin. So we'll have all of that data to be able to see how are our students doing, and how are our students doing, in Mandarin compared to English. Are they improving in both? How
Yes.
much they are improving?
So yes, we're actually, it's going to be more comprehensive. Absolutely.
Great. There's always been, from the very beginning, I'm gonna call it misconception, that your child comes through here, and when they graduate, they're fluent in Chinese, and they could go to China and go to high school in China, right? But I think that always needs to be emphasized, that they will be able to speak Chinese, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be fluent. The purpose of the dual immersion is to improve their critical thinking skills in the dual language, and that's the real goal. The byproduct is that they're able to speak Mandarin.
Well, and that's why you'll see the shifts in our program, because our Mandarin program was just Mandarin literacy. Now adding other content areas, you'll see that co-teaching. So they'll get math instruction in English, And they'll get that same math reinforced in Mandarin. So now they're able to make those connections between the two.
Good luck with that.
That's our goal.
Good luck with that.
It takes time,
Yeah.
but you have to start and you have to build from there.
And the teachers are very excited about
Yes.
trying to create that cohesive program.
Yeah.
We've gotten, no pushback, just really excitement from the teachers and the thought of being able to work together between the Mandarin teachers and the English teachers and our STEAM teacher and our music teacher and having a lot more collaboration between all of our
As an
staff.
example, we have science, so science instruction in Mandarin being reinforced in English, then getting extended in STEAM, all at the same grade level. So you get that type of teamwork and cohesiveness, and that's really,
And the kids are seeing it in 3 different ways. They're seeing it in STEAM and it's in some type of hands-on activity. They're seeing it in Mandarin where they're getting more of the content, and then they're seeing it in English where they're getting the reinforcement of the vocabulary.
that's really what you want to see in a dual immersion program. It's not just Mandarin literacy, it's instructing in Mandarin more than just the Mandarin literacy.
You know, when I was younger, I didn't learn how to speak Spanish. It wasn't until I was later, or older.
Mhm.
And as I progressed, I realized that I truly learned the language when I can speak, when I literally can speak between English and Spanish. And I'm not translating my English to Spanish and then saying the Spanish, but it's just coming right out from my head. I'm thinking in that language. And when you can do that, I don't want to say you mastered it, but you certainly have elevated communication skills. And maybe that should be closer to our goal. At least the kids are on that path to be able to
Well,
do that.
and that's how the program is designed, is where you're making those connections between the two, where it's connecting in the different parts of the brain and the subjects being taught.
Right. And I think that's important. Yeah, actually, I think we communicated that to the parents many times, but they still think they're gonna be able to be fluent.
They're not gonna get trained as an apply for Beijing University.
That's correct. They cannot walk into Beijing University and
Yeah.
just take over,
No.
but they could go to China. And know where to walk when they get off the airplane.
Well, and there's
Where to go.
there's
Yeah,
different
do that.
backgrounds and experiences. If you get a TK coming in a TK going through the program through 8th grade, they could be fluent.
Yeah.
You get a 5th grader coming in with no Mandarin background through 8th grade, it's going to be.
That's gonna be a challenge.
I mean, that's the nature of it. That's why we track it. Yep.
Perfect.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with that.
Last thing real quick, just upcoming events. Just to inform you, we have our parent orientation on Friday with the different times, and those times are just to accommodate space and parking for our families. These are our first day of school on the 15th, and then our back to school night on the 21st. So these types of things will be going out on a regular basis, calendar events to families with reminders, so that way there's no lapse of communication, so all the families are informed. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Oh, yeah, I do have one thing. You know, it's funny because I'm reading through this, and while I was thinking of this all looks great. The town, Amy and Mr. Smith, you're doing a great job. You've got it all organized and stuff. It reminds me of when my wife and I had our first child. We're both engineers and we both planned everything out, and we had it like, hey, what's the big deal? Well, this is gonna, we're gonna have the kid and here, we got this, we got that, we've got this handled. What's the big deal? And the first night, the whole plan went out the window, so I just kind of seen that parallel here. I'm thinking, oh yeah, you guys got this. This is great. Yeah.
I
Let's
can
see what
warn-
happens when the
I
kids.
can warn
get-
up you, I had twins this start, so I'm
Oh,
really good.
so I'm saying, 550 kids show up here and they've got to
No,
execute
and-
this plan. I'm going, yeah.
And that's,
Good luck.
and that's gonna be the constant theme, is that if you're looking at big picture, it comes across as overwhelming. But what you wanna do is do a number of small, short-term goals.
Yeah.
Over time, and you build to it, and all of a sudden you're gonna look back and then you will see that big change, so.
I see the parallel. But anyway,
All right.
I'm done.
All right, thank you. Next item, financial update. Mr. Jones, are you there? We see you.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. How are you all?
Thank you for
Mic
joining.
check. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All righty. So, welcome back to the new year. It's good to see you all again, obviously. I'll dive in a little bit. We're still in the process of closing out the fiscal year. So what I provided was just a quick, short overview of where we currently are. And obviously, as Amy mentioned, excuse me, as Amy mentioned, um, with the anticipated growth that's coming for this fiscal year, obviously we'll be doing a revised budget and things like that to sort of get a better or capture a better picture of what we anticipate the fiscal year to look like. I'll share with you really quickly. Where we are. And again, this is not necessarily 100% here because we're still, again, working on closing out the fiscal year. So this is not set in stone, as you can see here. I just dropped this preliminary up there. And you guys have all seen this document before in terms of the budget, etc. Excuse me, I'm a bit under the weather, so I'm not 100% this evening.
If you
I-
go to the folder, you can see.
Our LCFF revenues here, 4,021,000. I'm pretty sure we have a receivable that we haven't booked here yet. I'm waiting on the report from the Treasury to make sure or confirm that in terms of our LCFF revenues. Total federal revenues of 203,000. Other state revenues of 1.1 million, and then our local revenues here of 289,000. I'll point out that this does not include any of the anticipated gift from the K Foundation that was promised back in June. So currently, right now, we're sitting at 5.6 million in terms of total revenues. You can see here our comparison to our budget that was approved at second interim. When we look at our salaries and our expenditures overall here, and again, some of this sort of came up in your discussion earlier this evening in terms about staffing and instructional aids and things in the classroom. And you can see here where that shook out in terms of payments, things like that. About 2% over on our certificated salaries and 12% on our non-certificated instructional aids, classroom support, office support, things like that. You can see here where employee benefits shake out 676,000. Again, this is not necessarily set in stone, but I'm pretty confident that these figures here will not change any further, with the exception of probably this, if there are any, excuse me, additional invoices and things like that that we have not yet received. But I'm pretty confident throughout the course of the last month or so that we've been monitoring to make sure that we've captured any invoices and things like that that should have been booked into the fiscal year 23-24. And again, as always, the elephant here in the room has been our payments back to charter schools capital and those fees that are associated to it. As you can see here, I'd estimated that it would only cost us roughly 275,000, cost us roughly 62,000 more in terms of the final borrowing for them for fiscal year 23-24. Total expenditures of 5.6 million, 81,000, leaves us with a deficit of 55,000. Again, as I mentioned, that we're looking on trajectory to be about 119,000 positive. And I'm hoping that's still the case once I true up the remainder of the revenues and any other expenditures that will come in before I officially close the books in another week or two. Beginning cash, obviously, as we've been having this conversation throughout the year. 423,000 when we started. You can see here at the end of June, we had cash of 487,000. But overall, our expenditures through June and obviously into July trending roughly around 200,000 or so. As July is usually the smaller month in terms of expenditures, but as we get into to August, September, etc., we start to see those ramp up again. But sticking to just where we are in terms of closing out 23-24, again, as I mentioned here, you can sort of see where we were off or, where we're thinking that we will be, either in the, expenditures that were in excess or under. And you can see here again, program costs were about 21,000 over, but the bulk of that here were in these two categories in terms of additional expenditures for staffing. As we turn the corner here, and obviously, and I'll sort of be brief with this, we'll be producing the unaudited actuals for the and I'm working really hard to get us there for the August 20, help me Amy here, 20 something meeting, I believe.
August 20th.
Thank you, August 20th. Okay, so right on the dot there, roughly 2 weeks from now. So we'll try to get that in, and obviously, I shouldn't say try, but we will work our due diligence to get that together for that meeting. So you guys will have that, and those numbers then will be final. We're currently also, while we're doing this, sort of working on the audit as well. We've been sort of doing that for roughly about 2 months now in terms of working with the auditors on the preliminary work, things like that. And then obviously we'll do that final work after the unaudited actuals have been produced. Excuse me. What else can I share? This is basically it for now. Is again, we're sort of in that limbo area with providing accurate financials because we're still closing things out, and obviously having really not much to show for July because really we're really focused on this side of it now, in terms of closing out things like that. But I will take any questions that you have. I will show you. I will pause for any questions that you have, and I'll show you also the check register and our aging report while I'm doing that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. The variance from budget, why you put some of the numbers are negative? Is there a particular reason? The actual
Yeah, on the revenue side, David, usually I like to show that this amount here is what we got in excess, as opposed to down here this being a deficit. I mean, I can flip it the other way, but I think it's just more easily understood this way.
Okay, because the actual revenues, some of the categories are actually bigger than the budget, right?
Yes, that means we got more. As an example here, we got more in state revenues, and some of these were one-time restricted resources that we fully expensed and recognized this year, right? So that's part of that reason why you'll see some of these here bigger, including a small amount of federal revenues. Most of it is actually SPED revenues in here, outside of PCSGP.
Okay, just your numbering, yeah. So it did counterintuitive. So I was thinking, because the actual revenues are bigger than the budget. I mean, it's not a deal.
Any other questions on the preliminary year-end numbers?
Yeah, I have a question. So you mentioned that.
Is that Brett?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining. I know you're not feeling well. Just a question to something you mentioned earlier. You're still working on closing out the books, but is there still revenue being recognized here? It goes beyond June 30th. Is that right?
Yeah. In terms of timing of when we receive them, so as an example, we have some sped revenues that I'm accruing right now, even as of today, right? So as you recall, if you recall, the year ends June 30th, but there's some run out time in terms of when we will actually receive the cash or the revenues or recognize the revenues for those. So we'll book them as an accrual, but we still need to know what those specific numbers are, right? So that's why, to my point, when I said we're still accruing certain things or we're waiting on those, LACO finally sent, as an example, just giving you a small example here, LACO finally sent us the schedule for receivables for outstanding things so that we can verify. I believe it was last Thursday, so I need to record those things like that.
Let's say you got a donation today.
Mhm.
Can that be recognized in this, or that would go to the next?
Oh, absolutely. If it's specifically related to 2023-24, yes, absolutely.
Got it.
Up until the point where,
But
I'll
We were, that we were using for our 23-24 budget, or that had been received in 23-24, or had been, say, promised in 23-24,
Yeah.
then we could reconcile it here so long as we have received it. But if it was a new donation that came in today that we were using for future funds, then we would book
Go to
that
24.
to the 24-25 budget.
yes, it would. It would have to be specifically related to the 23-24 fiscal year per gap.
Got it.
Which is just the general accounting principles for me to recognize it as part of 23. But to Amy's point, if you had a new donation and someone knocked on the door this evening and presented you with a check, I would have to recognize it as part of 24-25.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none?
No, I still have one question.
Yeah,
So, remember last board meeting, we discussed, there's a gap, right? Budget gap. So, Amy has to secure a loan. Do you have a number? Remember last time we left it, you're gonna propose a number, right?
So I think right now, like I said, Delato and I are gonna be working on the revised budget and looking at our actual cash flow. So right now, we're not gonna ask for any additional money. I am reserving the right to possibly have to come back on August 20th, and ask for, sort of an additional gap funding. But right now, we're going to try to make that, once we look at all of the numbers, make that as small as possible, in light of, interest and things like that. Or hopefully not actually have to take anything. But as of today, we have enough to get us definitely through the next board meeting. And then we'll go back and have a better idea once, the unaudited actuals are finished and we start looking at that new budget.
Thank you for clarification. That's a second question. From your letter, there's this projected incoming donation that will be divided into 5 portions. So how would that impact on the budget?
So that is something that we had budgeted to receive a lump sum of 250,000. And now it appears that it will be $50,000 over 5 years. So that is going to reflect negatively on the unaudited actuals that you'll see, because basically we will only be able to, once we receive that check, only account for the $50,000 for covering last year, where we had actually budgeted for 250,000. So in looking ahead and moving forward, in our budgeting, we're going to not add in any donations until we've actually received those donations, just to make sure that we don't have to go back and revise that with a negative figure.
Thank you.
You asked my question.
The one previous to
this one. You asked my question. Okay, I'm happy. Well, I'm not happy.
better than.
I know,
And at least I know.
All
I
right,
know, my, you know, basically. the point.
Mr. Jones, you're welcome to stay if you want for the rest of the meeting, but I think you're hereby released if you need to go rest. Thank you. very much.
Yeah, just two more things.
Yeah.
Check register, you all have this. And again, I don't necessarily review unless, Dr. Kernan chooses otherwise to discuss it. But I always sort of just have it up here, just for public information. But if you guys need to discuss any items here, we certainly can. And then, one last thing that, we're going to present this, and this will be sort of something I discussed with Dr. Kernan on a go-forward basis. This is just the aging report. I ran this, last Friday or so. It shows, our commitments. Sorry, I'm losing my thoughts here. In terms of expenditures that are still outstanding and how far out they go. So as you can see here, and again, this is, again, part of that cash flow issue that we mentioned. You can see here we have some items that are outstanding about 60 days now, and then others that are sort of current. You can see here, these are our current, about 187,000 is current, and then about another 200,000 or so is 30 days or more. So we'll be providing this on an ongoing basis to the board. Obviously, Dr. Kernan and I will be monitoring this and paying. We had a great conversation, I thought, last Friday on making sure that we're looking at things more strategically in terms of, invoices, what we can pay, what we can hold, things like that. So we will be having this as a standing review until we get beyond our current cash flow issues.
Hopefully not much longer, and we'll get out of our cash flow crunch and, but right now we want to make sure that we prioritize, payments. Don't let any payments lapse too long, but make sure that we're prioritizing those payments as well. No question.
Okay, folks, I think that's about all I can muster up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delano. Feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Have a great evening.
Okay. Moving on to item 9, items for discussion and possible action. So review of the comparable compensation data for charter school heads of the school, executive director, CEOs, and approve executive compensation paid to the executive director. We were actually hoping to have this information when we were discussing Dr. Kernan's position. We did receive this information, and it's important that we share. And just so you all know, the California Nonprofit Integrity Act of 2004 mandates that the board of directors review comparable executive compensation packages for educational executives upon initially hiring the educational executive. So we got a compensation study, which you all have access to, was made public. Some key points to note in the summary that was provided. They gave basically a reference to, I think it was 2022, and an average of approximately 429 student population. They had a salary range, everything what you would consider basically a base salary, and then there's other compensation. But the average total compensation package for comparable charter school leaders is approximately $210,855. The average base salary is approximately $181,141. Salaries range from $118,000 to $219,346. The salaries can range based on many different factors. So those are the salaries from 2022. So they looked at it and added 5% and kind of backed into where we are today. Looking at the 2024-2025 school year, would provide an average total compensation of approximately $231,941 and an average base salary of approximately $199,255. So included in that information also was a comparison of several different schools within Orange County and LA County. And you can see the student counts are there, the total compensation package as it's broken down based on the base salary as well as other compensation. Just need a moment to look at that. Okay. So it is recommended that the Board of Directors ratify action item A, which is this comparable compensation data. Is there a motion?
Make a motion,
Thank you, Felipe. Is there a second? Molly seconds. I'll do roll call. Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
yes.
Freeman, yes. Doug, absent. David?
Yeah.
Miller, absent. Okay, it passes. Okay. For the next item is to approve the employment agreement for the Executive Director of Irvine International Academy. I have a statement I need to read. As to this item regarding approval of the Executive Director Employment Agreement, I'm required by law to indicate prior to any vote on the Executive Director Employment Contract that the contract provides the following. We did make the contract available in the folder. A work schedule of a minimum of 239 days annually. A base annual salary of $207,000 plus doctoral spend of $2,590 for the 2024-2025 school year. Sick leave in the amount of 12 days annually. Vacation leave in the amount of 10 days annually. Health and other benefits of employment is granted to IIA's employees. And employer contributions for CalSTRS, CalPERS, subject to program and eligibility requirements. I would also note that the annual salary is in keeping with the compensation comparability study the board has received. So the IIA Board of Directors selected and approved a new executive director at the June 2025-2024 regular Board of Directors meeting. The executive director contract became effective July 1st, 2024, and it's necessary for us to approve and / ratify the final employment agreement at a regular board meeting. Is there a motion? Thank you, David. I will second the motion. Roll call vote. Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug, absent. David, sorry.
Yes.
Miller, absent. Okay, it passes. Thank you very much. Next item C, approve the 2024-2025 instructional minutes and bell schedules. So per California Education Code 46200 to 46208, schools must provide minimum minutes of instructional time based on grade levels. The proposed bell schedules and instructional minutes adhere to these minimum requirements. They were included in the public materials. Any comments on this particular item?
No, the bell schedules are available. Minutes, we do meet all minimum minute requirements for each grade level with a cushion just in case for some reason we had to shut school down for a day, we wouldn't have to make up that time.
Any big changes compared to last year?
Other than the new middle school schedule, whereas middle school followed the same schedule, I guess, last year as they do as the, elementary schedule. This year we have a different middle school schedule, so they will have a different end time. And they'll go for a full day on Wednesdays, whereas elementary gets out a little bit earlier on Wednesdays for that collaboration time. So there's just a few changes, mostly regarding our middle school schedule, which you can see on the bell schedule that was provided.
And then once we approve it, then the website will get updated with this information.
And everything
correct?
should be on there, yeah.
Questions, comments?
And we'll be sharing all of that bell schedule information as well on Friday during orientation. with the different, that's one of the reasons we broke it up into different grade level bands, was because the programs and the start and end times and things are a little bit different depending on what group what grade level your student's in.
Okay, as recommended, the board of directors approve action item C. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve action.
Well, I'm gonna say Molly.
I got that one. 3 seconds.
Second.
Let's take this. Okay. All right, roll call vote. Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yeah.
Yes. Miller? Absent. Passes. Next item D, approve the Irvine International Academy Student Family Handbook. The handbook has been updated to reflect current policies and procedures. Any other comments?
We reduced the size of the handbook, about in half, from 80 pages down to 40 pages, making sure that it really did have the necessary information, but really mostly just reflected our actual school policies and procedures, taking out a lot of the ed code that was in there that really didn't need to be in there, and parents really probably didn't want to read through anyway. So we were trying to make it a little bit more user-friendly to encourage our families to really review that document, and our students, and make it a more of a usable document. And then throughout this year, we'll also kind of look throughout the whole year of ways that we can even revise it further for next year. We want to make sure that it's a document that is actually a usable document for our school.
Family friendly.
Yes. 80 pages
Parent friendly.
long. Full of ed code.
Questions, comments? So,
Don't have to read it.
This year, read it.
all right, it's recommended the board of directors approve action item D. Is there a motion? I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
One second.
Thank you, Felipe. Roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yeah.
Yes. Miller? Absent. All right, passes. Next item E, approve the Irvine International Academy Employee Handbook. The IA Employee Handbook's been revised to reflect current IA policies and procedures and include relevant updates to state and federal laws and regulations. Any comments?
We have Ms. Serrano here to just present a little bit about the updates to our handbook for this year.
Hello, good evening. So essentially we changed the language. One of the first changes was on the health benefits. So instead of the 7,000 contribution, we had changed it that now IA covers 100% of the cost for employee only coverage on the Gold Select. So it's like a plan. In addition to that, we added some language on the salary schedule information. So making sure that teachers are aware of when to turn in graduate units at specific dates, and when that could be placed for like column advancement. Stipend information, we also clarified what kind of stipends we give out, as well as kind of like that it needs to pertain to the assignment that they're doing. It's just more clarification on like what they're being paid for. There was a law that was passed earlier this year in January, but we added it into the handbook that just says that part-time employees now receive 40 hours of paid sick leave. And so they're accruing that at the rate of 1 hour for every 30 hours worked. We also updated that we will be accepting previous sick leave balance from previous California public schools. That typically is like if teachers bring in a sick leave balance, but we do have a cap on that as well. We also added language on reproductive loss leave. So now employees are able to take leave if they experience a reproductive loss. And then the acknowledgement of the handbook itself is going to be done on an online platform instead of like a form that was on the old handbook. That's kind of like a very general updates on the handbook so far.
So each employee is required to read the whole thing before they sign off?
Yes.
Well, they at least have to sign off that they read the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. They don't have to read them.
Are any of these changes a result of feedback from employees and we listened to them and then we made changes? Or these are things that we're seeing external to the school and we ended up implementing?
So it was a little bit of both. A lot of this stuff was first done through our lawyers, through our employment lawyers. So they were able to kind of update like the reproductive loss leave, like the part-time employee sick leave. But from our employees, a lot of it was like the salary schedule and the stipend information. I think that was where we got the most feedback as far as like how to even interpret the salary schedule. What does column advancement even mean? What kind of graduate units, like what kind of units are we actually applying for column advancement? So I think it was a little bit of both.
So after you update, the handbook, for like existing employees, are they notified or they're gonna have to read again or?
Yeah.
Every year,
Okay.
employees are required to sign off
Right.
that they have reviewed the employee handbook. So, and then tomorrow, we are bringing all of our staff starts back tomorrow, and we're having a nuts and bolts. Most of tomorrow is kind of an all staff nuts and bolts, new policies, procedures, and so Ms. Serrano will has slides in there where she'll go over some of these bigger changes for the entire staff, like she is today, but in a little more detail for the staff, as far as any changes with the handbook or policies and procedures. So new staff will get it, but staff who's been here will get it as well.
Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Just wanted to welcome you back.
Thank you.
IA. Thank
Yeah,
you for coming
good to
back.
be here. Thank you.
She's been doing an amazing job with HR, since I've gotten here.
Great, thank you. Okay, we need a motion, right? David?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Molly. I'll do roll call. Molly?
Yes.
Felipe?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yeah.
Miller? Absent. Okay, it passes. Thank you very much. On to the next item F, approve Proposition 28, Arts and Music in Schools Funding Plan. November 8, 2022, California voters approved Proposition 28, the Arts and Music in Schools Funding Guarantee and Accountability Act. Measure required the state to establish a new ongoing program supporting arts instruction in schools beginning in 2023, 2024. Local educational agencies must approve a plan and submit an annual board report in a manner determined by the superintendent that shall be posted on the local educational agency's website, and that details the type of arts education programs funded by the program, the number of full-time equivalent teachers, classified personnel, and teaching aides, and the number of pupils served. Any insight?
So this is basically just accountability for how we have spent that Prop 28 money. We'll need to do this annually. And we make a plan at the beginning of the year, and then this is sort of reporting on how we expended those funds. So for last year, we used it to pay for partial salaries for 2 staff. So 0.25% or approximately 0.25% of our STEAM teacher and 0.25% of our music teacher were paid with these funds. So for the upcoming year, we'll create a revised plan, and it will be presented to the board once we expend the funds again, just like it is now.
So the financial impact is positive?
Yes, so we received $25,637. That was already reflected in the budget. And then that's what we expended on the 2 salaries. So it was an increase in funds.
Is it possible just to mention that so we know if it's income versus expense?
If it was expense, that I would put it in as a negative or.
You will put it as a negative.
So I would have
right?
put it as
Okay.
a
All right,
negative.
I
So
just wanna
since
make
it wasn't
sure
a
that we're
negative,
clear on that.
Positive.
Yeah, yeah, maybe even have a
I
plus
would have
sign
been
or.
clear that it was, yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Good thing.
Okay, it's recommended the board of directors approve action item F. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Molly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Roll call, Molly.
Yes.
Felipe?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yeah.
Miller? Absent. Passes. Thank you. Next item. Track. Items.
You're on G.
Approve the board policy 0410 non-discrimination. Item G, mandated policy regarding IA's general non-discrimination policies and procedures, including IA's non-discrimination statement, which must be posted on the website and other public areas at the school site.
So basically, this is just our statement that we don't discriminate. And it is mandated that it be posted on our website as well as in different public areas around the school. And so we will make sure that once this is approved, the statement is posted on our website, the policy is also will be posted on our website. And then in common areas like the office, staff lounge, different places around school that are more public, we will have that statement. That statement will also be reflected in any future handbooks or things like that.
And we had this policy before. Was there any modification to the policy?
We actually did not have a non-discrimination statement that I could find. We did have a general, but it was all the non-discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment, and Title IX all combined into one. Mandated, those are supposed to be separate policies. So this really takes them, it updates them with any new, so all of these, almost all of these board policies you're about to do, it's really, some of them have been updated. Title IX had a lot of changes. The reason I didn't give you a red line copy is because they were all together and now I've taken them out. And so there really are new policies. Breaking that one giant policy up and also adding more of the procedures, the different procedures for different types of discrimination or harassment, be it Title IX discrimination or sexual harassment or just general discrimination. So, so there's different procedures for each one of these.
How does G different from J?
So G is really approving our general non-discrimination statement. And J is more our non-discrimination and harassment policies and procedures as it pertains to students. So G is more of a general overall organizational statement against harassment and mainly discrimination. J is in particular to students and student programs. And our policy and how we handle making sure that we don't discriminate in student programs. That's that numbering system that the 500s are students.
Did we have a non-discrimination statement on our website?
We did not, so now we do.
So we did not have it on our website, but we had a policy that was bundled with a few. Were we non-compliant, or this was just a better way to structure it?
With this,
So it's more
with the statement, we were non-compliant because that does have to be
on the website.
on the website. For the policies, it's recommended that those be different policies because the way that we had it was that our procedures were really the same for all of these. Whereas really we do have some variance in the way that we handle different things. So this kind of better delineates between those different types of discrimination and harassment.
Okay. It's recommended the board of directors approve action item G.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Felipe. Roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yep.
Miller? Absent. All right, it passes. On to the next item H, approve revised policy, board policy 5113, attendance. This revision updates the policies and procedures regarding attendance to include the most recent state and federal laws and guidelines. It's been updated to reflect new attendance procedures regarding chronic absences and truancies.
So we talked a little bit about this at our last meeting. We really revised our attendance policies and procedures, especially some of them around our independent study, the way that we're recording things. We are also going to really have a pretty strong emphasis on this year on making sure that students are either coming to school or they're doing independent study, but really promoting that everybody should be coming to school. And so we're going to put a little bit more stringent procedures around students who are chronically absent or truant. So meaning they've either been absent more than 10% of the school year, or they have 3 or more unexcused absences. In regards to sending letters home, having meetings between our administrators and the parents, putting in attendance plans for students who do have attendance issues. So the policy was kind of completely revised to really add a little bit more around what our procedures are in regards to students who may be having attendance issues. And then updating, there's quite a few updates in terms of what is considered by the state to be an excused absence. Some of them don't really apply to our students, and a lot of them were around bereavement type of absences.
Questions?
Question going back to the non-discrimination policy. Did you say it was on the website? Because I don't see it here.
There should be a,
I may be looking at it, fine, but I'm looking at the policies there.
It's under About Us.
I actually put it because it really is supposed to be its own thing, so I put it under About Us. So if you click on the About Us, I'm working with, it's actually supposed to be on the front page of the website. I'm working with our website provider to actually put it at the bottom of the website, because that's really where it should be, is at the bottom of kind of like a disclaimer sort of
Oh, I
thing.
see it.
At the bottom of our website, but that's a hard-coded thing, so I'm working with Ed Leo to put that there.
Right. Okay,
Yeah, we want to make it front and center.
Yeah, come back to H for the chronic absentees. Any punishment? Any repercussion?
Well, so it sort of depends. So we know for elementary students, it's not usually the students who are causing
It's the
those
parents.
absences. It's the parents. So, so there are, in terms of once it gets beyond a certain point. So, you know, we sort of like we do with students, there is sort of a progressive process that can actually lead to the parents having to attend a meeting with someone from the district attorney's office. And also parents can actually get sanctioned and have fines. It doesn't happen a lot. And usually that's for really, huge offenses. But for some of our students who really are chronically absent, as we follow this process, one thing that parents could really have to do is attend, and I've been to a lot of them. It's not a fun meeting with the district attorney's office to explain why your student is, and they can actually put a lot more sanctions and requirements on parents than we can as a school. But, we can require parents to come into meetings to put attendance policies in place and try to do a lot of education of parents as well.
So, in our school, we have some parents, right? Which is a problem. I know it's a couple of them, right? And, I know you just been here for months or so, so I'm not sure in the past how we handle. Do we send them a letter or ask them, hey, you gotta come here to see Dr. Bean?
I don't know that we had like a super consistent policy in the past, so we're trying to really make that consistent and hold parents accountable. When they get into middle school, there's also, some accountability for the student as well, because sometimes it's them coming, especially now that they're switching classes, they might be, hanging out in the bathroom a little bit too long or coming late to class, or those that ride their bike might not always, might stop by 7-Eleven on the way. So it will be, there will be some consequences, probably a little bit more for the middle school students who might be themselves causing those attendance issues. And we're also going to be counting tardies. I know from what I've heard, we've been pretty lax about tardies in the morning, and we have some I guess, you call them frequent flyers who are late on a consistent basis. And that really does hamper the educational environment, not just for those students, but for all the other students who are impacted when a student comes in late and the teacher has to stop what they're doing. So, so we are going to be recording tardies. If a student is late at all, they will be recorded as a tardy, and that will be part of that attendance procedures. And we are going to be requiring parents who are more than 5 minutes late to sign their students into school. So they'll actually have to get out of their car, come in, sign their kid in, which hopefully will create some deterrence for those parents who are maybe sometimes late 2 or 3 times a week.
Is that physical sign in or
Physical
it's a
sign in.
computer?
They'll physically sign them in.
Yeah, make sure you emphasize that during the orientation.
Yes, we are.
I think that's, I've seen it, longer than you have been. Yeah, it just, after a while, it's difficult for the staff too, to have to deal with this. And so with Mario here, I think that'll help a lot, so.
We're gonna try to do a lot of upfront educating parents about it.
Good luck with that. Another one. Good luck with.
I'm
No,
feeling your
appreciate-
pessimism.
No, I appreciate that, because that's a big deal.
Gonna send you to Farasa.
I'm gonna put you out in a yellow vest.
All right, any other questions or comments on this item H? Recommend the board of directors approve action item H. Is there a motion? Thank you, Molly. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Felipe. Okay, roll call. Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Is absent. David?
Yes.
Miller? Absent. Okay, it passes. Item I, approve board policy 5131.2 bullying prevention. Mandated policy reflects IA's policies and procedures regarding bullying prevention.
Same thing, this was not a separate policy, and this one is actually mandated to be a separate policy, so we did make sure that this one was pulled out with our bullying procedures.
Any other questions, comments?
So these are mostly regarding students, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay, it's recommended the board of directors approve action item I. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Felipe. We'll do roll call. Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug, absent. David
Yes.
and Miller, absent. Okay, passes. Item J, approve board policy 5145.3, non-discrimination and harassment. Mandated policy reflects IAA's policies and procedures regarding non-discrimination and harassment.
we already went over this.
All right, questions or comments?
I'm looking on the website here and I see 5145. 713. It's not, and it's combined.
That's the, I
Harassment.
haven't updated these on the website yet,
Okay,
because
so
you
these
haven't
aren't updated.
approved them. So
Once
I
you get
won't put them up on the website until they're approved, so
Okay, got it.
that 0.71 was the giant combined one.
Combined.
I just named it what it sort of fit as, but once you approve these, then those will be replaced with these new policies, but I can't do it until you guys approve them.
Got it.
But the non-discrimination policy was.
The non-discrimination statement, I just put up there to make us in
The statement,
compliance.
yeah.
If you guys had decided to
Yeah.
change it, I would have
Okay.
updated it, but I did put that up there to make sure we're in compliance.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Okay, is there a motion? Thank you, Molly. I will second. Roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug, absent. David
Yes.
and Miller, absent. It passes. Okay. We're on K.
We're almost done.
5145.7, sexual harassment. This mandated policy reflects IIA's policies and procedures regarding sexual harassment and includes recent updates to legislation regarding Title IX, sexual discrimination. Any other comments?
So this one was updated with information that was just put into legislation regarding Title IX this year. A lot around staff staff, training regarding, Title IX, sexual harassment and sexual discrimination, and we've added that to our staff training. So that will be provided to all of our staff, that updated training.
When does that happen? When does-
So, so we have the next six days. Tomorrow, like I said, is our nuts and bolts, but all of these mandated trainings, so sexual harassment, Title IX, workplace violence, there's some sort of mandated trainings that we have a program, an online program called Vector Solutions
Mm.
that that employees will go on to do a lot of those trainings, and then as part of our nuts and bolts, we'll follow up with kind of policies and procedures that are specific to IIA.
They just complete that training.
They complete that, we give them time in this, over the next 6 days to complete that, you know, as they're not doing other things. So as one group's in a particular professional development, the IA or the IAs might be doing this, and then while the IAs are in a training, the teachers would be working on this. So it's just kind of spread out for when they have time over that 6 days.
So they watch the video, when they're done, they're actually quiz tests. They have to pass at least 80%.
Yeah, and we put everything online now. That's what Betsy's been working on, so that we have a record of who's completed each one of the trainings and when they completed them. So for compliance, we're able to pull that up and show that, you know, all of our staff members have completed these particular trainings if ever we were asked for it. It's better than just keeping the paper certificates in a file. Now we have an actual program that we can pull that data from.
Okay, questions, comments further? To recommend the Board of Directors approve action item K, is there a motion? Thank you, Molly. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Thank you, David. A roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yes.
Thank you. And Miller? Absent. It passes. Next item, approve, item 11, approve, or L, sorry, item L, approve board policy 5145.9, hate motivated behavior. This mandated policy reflects IA's policies and procedures regarding hate motivated behavior.
This is just a, you know, most of these today
Yes.
are just pulling that one policy apart. So hopefully in the future, we shouldn't have so many kind of on a related topic all at one time. It was really just kind of pulling all the pieces out. And this one, we actually do have to submit to OCDE, our authorizer, as a separate policy. So, and that's usually due to them in, I believe, September. So we wanted to make sure that this one was pulled out as well.
Is this one new?
I
don't hear that.
Yeah, this one, I think it's been mandated maybe for the last two years. So it's not one that I think it's sort of born out of recent.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Let's recommend the Board of Directors approve action item L. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Felipe. Roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yes.
Miller? Absent. It passes. Item M, approve board policy 6158, Title I. This policy outlines the policies and procedures regarding the use and allocation of federal Title I funding, which IA has applied to receive for the 2024-2025 school year.
So this policy, we need to have a Title I policy because we have applied for federal title funding. It's related to the policy that you approved. This one didn't have to be approved before we applied. It just has to be approved before we use the funding. We haven't even received it yet. The parent involvement policy you approved last time, that one needed to be in place before we could apply for the funding. So that's why those two are kind of broken up.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, to recommend the Board of Directors approve action item M. Is there a motion? Thank you, Molly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Felipe. Roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug? Absent. David?
Yes.
Thank you, Miller. Absent. Passes. Item 10, executive director comments.
I'm gonna keep them brief because made a lot of comments tonight. I'm just very excited that we're gonna be starting the school year soon. Teachers are coming back tomorrow. We have a lot of different activities planned for them, different trainings, a lot of collaboration time and planning time for our teachers. We have a lot of new staff coming on board because of, our big increases in enrollment. And then we have our orientation on Friday, so it'll be exciting. I've met several parents already. We've had a lot of meetings with the PTO, but it'll be exciting to see, all of the families back on Friday and get to meet everyone. And then school starts next week. So we're excited to actually have kids here all day now instead of just the summer program kids.
Is tomorrow your first day with everyone, right?
Yes.
So what percentage of the group do you think you've already met?
Probably probably about 50%.
Okay.
Now, so it's not, I mean, a lot of the teachers have been coming in to work in their classrooms or to, meet with us. We've met with a lot of the lead teachers. We've actually had meetings with them for the last 2 days. Just kind of plan for the upcoming school year. So, but it'll be nice to be able to see everybody together. And our PTO has graciously provided breakfast and lunch tomorrow for the staff. So we're
What time
excited.
should I be?
What time's the lunch?
You have to sit through the nuts and bolts to get fed.
Very exciting. My question that I have forgotten, so tomorrow, you said the leadership team, so do you still have the instructional leadership team, like, was the same as last year? Are we carrying that same?
It's
A little different?
morphed a little bit, and we've, have some members that have decided they don't want to be part of it, and we're going to be looking at, how to make that team as effective as possible. We also want to, like Grant mentioned, we want to really make sure that they're focusing on supporting their grade level teams, instead of, kind of other bigger, school-wide activities. We want everybody to collaborate with us on those big school-wide activities and help out, but not have individual teachers really being a part of that or being in charge of that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit different, more with them really supporting their grade level teams more than bigger school-wide initiatives.
All right, item 11, Board of Directors comments.
Want to start with me? So remember what I said earlier about the baby thing? Yeah, I'll leave it at that, because I can't stop thinking about that. You get here, that's a lot of kids to have here, and I recall talking to Dr. Bean one time, when he was involved here later. I said, it's just controlled chaos here. That's all it is, right? You keep trying to keep them in check, but they all look happy, so that's the goal.
That's
If you
important.
get as many of them happy and learning, we're good.
Yeah.
So, good luck on that day.
On one day.
Or on the first day of school. The parents, and I can just see them coming in, and dropping their kids off. Good luck with that.
Last year, I couldn't imagine 1 year later, we're gonna have a kid of 500 or something kid. Just couldn't. I thought that we're gonna be capped at 400 or something, right? 470. Huh?
There was some back and forth between whether it was 470, whether it was 510.
Yes,
It seems to have
470.
switched back and forth.
I think that's a really odd number because I was told that that's an odd number. And legally, when they submit the charter application. Yeah, those are very odd numbers.
Yeah, well, it didn't
Yeah,
Materialize.
Yeah.
materialize, so now we're good.
I found that kind of weird, because I remember reading the charter and when somebody mentioned that.
I think it was changed at between the initial charter and the material revision. I think the initial charter was at 510, and then the material revision that was just submitted was at 470. But that number didn't actually create a cap for us. All it was our projections. And so I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding of that being an actual cap versus that just actually being our projection of how many students we thought we would have. And it was actually our projection of how many students we thought we would have in 25, 26, not even this year. And so, when working with our authorizers, we looked through everything, both me and Anna Day, who's in charge of the fiscal side, as well as Araceli and Maureen,
Yeah.
and determined that that wasn't really, that wasn't actually a cap, it was just our projections, so,
I recall the projections in there. I don't recall the numbers.
yeah.
I have a, not a comment, but a question. I recall in one of the board meetings, we discussed, Dr. Bean's exit package. Part of the reasons, you're gonna consult everyone else will consult with Dr. Bean. Have you talked to him in the past?
I talked to him, he was actually at a charter school meeting that was held at OCDE the other day. I know Grant's talked to him a couple of times, I think Mary Beth's talked to him a couple of times. And, just to kind of fill him in on things, and then we are gonna invite him to the orientation. If he, it was supposed to be a barbecue, but now it's kind of morphed a little bit, but if he wanted to come in and join us for that as well.
It's good to know. Interactions and communications between you, Grant and Mary Beth.
Yeah, and Grant and Mary Beth, and we actually, our leadership team, Joe, we have meetings every Tuesday.
Mhm.
Our executive leadership meetings, and so we have a lot of collaboration between all of us as well.
That's good.
So, and Mary Beth and Joe have a lot of historical knowledge, so they're able to kind of fill us in on different things during those meetings.
I'm very glad to see that. Thank you.
I just look forward to this brand new year. And thank you for all the hard work. I mean, it's so detailed. But it's good. I kind of see like the new structure of the school. And I think the parents and kids are going to be excited because we have new, executive director, we have new principal, we have new, yeah. Thank you too.
Yeah, we're definitely running here for sure, and I just want to say thank you, Dr. Griffin, for all that you're doing, all the team's doing, Grant and Tiffany. It sounds like we're already seeing some real fundamental changes. It's very positive for this year. Obviously, we're very keen on the budget and managing that. Hopefully we'll have some good news soon on donations and start the school year strong.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. Next item. Item 12, community input on non-agendized items. Do you have any
We do
comments to
not.
this? Okay, next item, item 13, adjournment. It's recommended the board adjourn the regular meeting of the IAA Board of Directors today, August 6, 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Molly. Roll call, Molly,
Yes.
Felipe,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Doug, absent. David
Yes.
and Miller, absent. It passes. Meeting is adjourned at 8:47. How are we doing there?
I have 8:48.
8:48. Okay.
You were close.
All right. Trying to look at that. Perfect. Thank you all. We have our future boarding meeting dates, next meeting being August 20th.
So next time, we're not gonna have a lot of policies to.
Tons. What are you talking about?
I presume.
The other half. other
All right.
Firstly, if I'm wrong, Brandon, the compact, the non-agendized items, the discussion was at the front. Was previously.
That was